CyberRisk Boardroom Edition featuring Ken.
Hey there, welcome. So let's talk about RevMap. We've renamed that to RevRisk, and based on a number of suggestions, you can see some of the updates as we go through this. But when you first open the file, you're going to have instructions. You can read through this. And the whole goal of this file, it's an Excel file. There's no macros, nothing crazy going on. The sheets will be password protected. You just unprotect them. It's just there so you don't fat finger something. So you're going to really want to look at RevRisk. And we've updated a few things on this. The premise is for boards, and when I've talked to board members and cybersecurity professionals, I think the biggest thing we're still missing is what is the overall revenue and how is it tied to revenue streams or business process mapping? How is it tied to the revenue and those streams? And then what's the overall exposure from a high level? And just gut checking, are we spending enough time and energy and money on the revenue streams that have the highest exposure? So that's basically what this sheet allows boards to do super quickly. And I filled this out pre-populated so we can get an idea of what the sheet does. So your revenue streams, business process streams are right here, right? And so you can do a drop down and pick from the ones I have, or you can type in your own if you have one that is specific that's not listed. So here you can see online sales. You put a percentage of revenue. Again, on average, how much revenue is coming from online sales versus product licensing versus in-store versus subscription revenue. And those should equal 100%. Once you have your revenue captured in your revenue streams, then you go through and you say, okay, do customers access this revenue stream? Is there third parties accessing it? Which we see a huge risk in third parties accessing information. And we did add AI systems and automation. Are we using AI systems and automation for this revenue stream? Is it in the cloud, remote access, on-prem, and then regulatory data? Does it have any regulatory data that's part of that revenue stream? And so this gives you an overall revenue score as you toggle this from no, you can see it drops it down, yes, at 94%. So what it does is it takes the 94%, times it by the 55%, which is your overall revenue, and it says of that, since it's a pretty high score, of course I hit yes to almost everything, you got a 51% of your revenue out of 55 is actually exposed. And so that gives an overall risk exposure of high, and then a suggested action of mitigate. And you can see here, we're plotting this in real time. So online sales, critical, prioritize now, mitigate. You can see that kind of in the upper right quadrant. This is your exposure score, and then this is obviously the revenue. And you can see the other one's feathering down here from moderate to low, and you can see the accept versus monitor. And then from here, you could also see your spider diagram, which one of the exposures are most applicable to the revenue streams, and in this case it would be AI systems and automation, which you look at here has a total 26% of the work streams are using that particular exposure or has a potential exposure. So that in a nutshell is great because again it takes our revenue streams, which boards really should understand what percentage of revenue is coming from it, and then an overall exposure which is based off of the criteria in the columns that we have in here. Now we take it one step further and we say, okay, what if we had cyber liability insurance? How much of the exposure would we be able to transfer, that transferable exposure, right? So you could mitigate, you can accept, you could transfer the risk from that perspective, avoid, of course, but we try not to do that. So you can see the only other thing we ask for is a total revenue. So this again should be something boards should quickly be able to get from the CFO and say, oh, how much revenue did we do last year? That's your overall revenue. So in this instance, I just put $30 million. And you could see if we say, yes, we have cyber liability insurance, we're actually able to transfer $14 million of that $30 million if there was a potential breach. Of course, the revenue stream that we're looking at from an overall perspective is 72% of that. So again, from an overall perspective, this should be fairly quickly for boards to be able to digest and do in a board meeting with the CISO. And that gives you an idea of where we're at. When we're talking technology and we're talking systems, talk about the revenue and the rev risk to each one of the revenues. So hopefully this helped. take a look at it. It's on GitHub. You can feel free to download it. If you have any questions, shoot me some comments. Take care.